Just a quick update with the old cell phone here. I put the last ribs on the outside of the aileron. One there. One there. I've got the false ribs, whatever you call them, on the front here. I had those double ones on your seam. Now what I did here, let me show you. On the plans, it gives you no distances between the double ribs there and the single rib there. This is where on the wing you'll have a hinge on there, or a piece of metal nail bracket that will slide into that pin, and that's what will hinge the aileron. So on the wing here, the plans are for the right wing. This is the actual left wing. I've got the double false ribs there. There's no information on how to attach this to the spar. It's just sitting there. So I measured this distance on here, since it doesn't give a distance, and these plans aren't to scale at all. So I measured that distance, and it should be, as an approximation, fine, because all that has to fit in here is an L bracket, so it'll slide on. So I think it was 1 3/16 inches. So I cut a block 1 3/16 inches. Glue this to this using this as a spacer. I did put on tape there so that this doesn't stick to this and it just sticks to that. How strong that's going to be, I don't really know. We'll glue that up and we'll see. What's going to add the strength is when you cover the top with the leading edge of the aileron. So that plywood will wrap all the way around there. It'll hold that in place and it'll rest right on there. And then you can cut out that little notch for the L bracket to fit in there. So that's what we are doing today. That's glued up and in place. We'll see how that works. In the meantime, and in between time, that's it. Next thing I'm going to do is I've got to get some hardware so I can start making the brackets. We'll get the wing up here. We need to get the aileron tube through there. On the aileron here, you've got that L bracket with the pin that goes through there. On this side, we'll have the horn that comes down. What we have to do, I should have done this beforehand, but I didn't really know where and how much. I want to get the hardware first. Let's just drill a hole through here. I've got tons of drills that can fit in there. I've got small ones. To drill a hole for that pin. And then I'm going to do one down here as well. We'll drill a hole through here for the pin on the outside. This is the inside for this wing. And then the inside or the outside for this wing. So we'll put a hole through there as well. And we'll mount this. This is just a bolt with the head cut off and then ground down so it's nice and smooth. And that'll just fit into an L bracket. Now my question for anyone out there, it doesn't describe it in the plans at all. If we go to the big set on the wall here, we've got the L bracket right here, and the pin fits in there. This is the one we cut out, and you've got the L bracket right there, so the pin's in there. And you've got the pin here and the L bracket right there. This is the one there I was saying I'm gonna keep this piece of plywood, that small piece of plywood where it stops halfway. I'm gonna, and I did, I took it all the way to the back there. So it comes right back against that rear spoiler. So each of these L brackets holds that little pin so the aileron will pivot. Is there any bushing that goes between the pin and the L bracket? The flaps you use, you know, maybe once or twice when you're landing. Aileron gets used every second of every flight. That aileron's always moving in and out a little bit. So you're always correcting to fly that plane. So it gets a lot of wear on those pins and on that L bracket. So in the long term, and if you look at the section here, that's the flap right here. I see all kinds of stuff about drilling a hole, how high it's supposed to be, where it's going to line up, but I don't see any information on if there is any kind of bushing in there between the L bracket and that pin. If anyone's built one, let me know. And wondering what they put in there for a spacer or a bushing of some sort, or do they just go metal on metal? I don't know. I think Algie had a really neat solution. He actually had on this part an actual bearing, I believe it was. I'm going to have to go look at his again. But he put in a bearing right here. And this pin would fit into that bearing, and it's the bearing that would pivot like a bearing is supposed to pivot. It's supposed to move. And it's not just metal on metal. So I'm wondering if that might not be a better solution than having that wear metal on metal. It would sure make the movement smoother because you've got a bearing, obviously. All right, let me know.